Good morning. Welcome to Unity Longmont Spiritual Center on the 17th of September, 2023. We are blessed to have a guest, Michael East, to speak with us today about his experience with the Baha'i Faith, and of course, Teresa Storch to provide her gorgeous music. So we will start with Teresa, please.
Well, thank you. I felt like playing this song today. It's about a little girl I met when I was playing music on the streets in Massachusetts, in Harvard Square. Anyone knows Harvard Square? Well, Abigail is 4 years old. She starts kindergarten in 2 weeks. She'll talk to you if she's able. When she's shy, she smiles and shows her cheeks. Well, I am pleased to meet you, Abigail. She ate dinner at the table next to where I stood to sing and play. I wrote a note to thank me for the music, but she could not spell her name. Well, I am proud of my new friend, Abigail. Well, Abigail, I hope you sing and dance and play. I hope you learn to find your dreams, live them every day. Abigail, there's a big, big world out there. Well, I was shy once just like you. It was the best that I could say. Hoping she would understand, she wouldn't always feel that way. And that I have faith in my friend, Abigail. I like you, she said to me, in her small, quiet, steady way. I like you too, I responded, barely breathing as she held my gaze. And now I hug you goodbye, Abigail. Oh, Abigail, I hope you sing and dance and play. I hope you learn to find your dreams, live them every day. Abigail, there's a big, big world out there. But slowly I packed up my guitar and I headed on my way. But halfway down the block, I heard a small voice call out my name. And there she stood, my friend Abigail. She came back to say goodbye. She came back one more time. She came back to say goodbye again. Oh, Abigail, I hope you sing and dance and play. I hope you learn to find your dreams, live them every day. Oh, Abigail, there's a big, big world. Abigail, I hope you sing and dance and play. I hope you learn to find your dreams, live them every day. 'Cause Abigail, there's a big, big love. Abigail, there's a big, big love. Abigail, there's a big love inside of you.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you, Abigail. So it's at this time that we go into prayer together by taking a breath, settling into our bodies, aware of our minds and our hearts and our divinity. Beloved presence, we celebrate being together today. We celebrate having a guest and learning more. And we are so grateful for the ability to learn, to open our minds, and see and understand new things in life. We draw on one of the 12 powers, understanding this morning, and trust the process, trust ourselves. And here we go into understanding more. For that, so much we're grateful. Thank you. And so it is. And we will hear from Teresa.
Buddha sat for 7 years under a tree, watching the river wash him clean. John the Baptist told Jesus, wade into the stream so he could wash him clean. And I am here listening. Come sit down, this kitchen table is made of shaker wood. It is strong, has a spirit running through it. Give me details of your life, and I will pour the wine, and maybe we will find in vino veritas. Come clean, come clean, come clean, come clean with me. Sometimes I feel alone. I peek through your window. You freak through them wide, or we might ask, why are we hiding? Buddha had a wife and child. He lived a life of luxury. Jesus knew a woman, defended thugs and thieves. You have lived and loved your way. Made your own mistakes, but who am I to judge? I've lived the same way. Come clean, come clean, come clean, come clean with me. Sometimes I feel alone. I peek through your window. If we threw them wide up, we might ask, why are we fighting? So if you trust me, you'll find trust. Love me, you'll find love. I'll tear down my defenses. It doesn't matter if we're friends, enemies, lovers, or countries. Come clean, come clean, come clean, come clean, come clean, come clean with me, come clean with me, come clean with me.
Thank you so much, Teresa. We are invited to come clean again and again. So this morning we do have a guest, Michael East, and he has shared with us that the Baha'i Faith honors and acknowledges all prophets. I'm also aware from an email, Michael, that there are 12 principles that pretty forwardly say what Baha'i believes in. So welcome. Appreciate you being here this morning.
Thank you. Thank you. You hear me?
A little bit. It's pretty low.
Now, about as high as I have it on the, yeah, good.
When you're close, it's good.
Got it. Yeah. All right. Well, Baha'i is a religion that is for our day and our time, when the unity of the whole human race is going to eventually come together. All the previous prophets in the past, both great and small, were part of one divine plan, and that's to unify the human race, to bring about equality of all the races, equality of men and women, the having a spiritual solution to the economic problems of the world, and to allow people to independently investigate the truth for themselves. We don't charge any money. All our teachings are 100% free. We don't have a clergy. We're taught that we're accountable to God directly. And I've now taught for 42 years as a Baha'i, and taught all over the United States, in parts of Mexico and Canada as well. I have right now about 1,000 students from around the world that study with me. People come and visit me with me, and I teach. And the way Baha'i teaches is we teach in people's homes, basically. And in the 1800s, when the Baha'i knowledge came into existence, we would go into people's homes and sit around the fireplace and around the hearth and talk about everyday things and explain things to people. That eventually became known as fireside. And the Roosevelts, Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt, were actually studied the Baha'i teachings, and this is where Franklin got the idea of fireside chats to the nation. This is where it comes from. Woodrow Wilson's daughter was a well-known Baha'i, and between Franklin and Woodrow, Woodrow came up with the League of Nations, and Franklin helped with the creating of the United Nations. And before those two was Tsar Alexander II, who supported the Baha'i teachings in Russia. And he was the one that gave the idea of creating the World Court at The Hague. So we've had 3 attempts already to bring about a spiritual divine civilization. So we're getting a lot closer. So we have a specific terminology that we use for the major prophets. And those major prophets would be Buddha, Krishna, Zoroaster, Jesus, Moses, Muhammad, the 2 Baha'i prophets, and Adam, Abraham as well. We call them manifestations. And that's because they act like highly polished, clear mirrors that if we took a mirror and we placed it up to look at the sun in the sky, and we looked in the mirror, if we had the ability to do that, we would see the ball of the sun. We would feel the heat of the sun. We would see the light of the sun. In fact, everything that the sun would be in the mirror. But the sun has not jumped out of the sky into the mirror. This is what these manifestations or prophets are in relationship to the Great Spirit, God, Allah, whatever you want to call the one true invisible God. And so they reflect all the qualities and knowledge that need to be taught at the time in which they come to the people in the world. Today, we now have about 7 million Baha'is on the planet in almost every country in the world. Now, the Baha'i revelation began 180 years ago in 1844. That's pretty fast. If you consider, it took 300 years from the time of Jesus to Constantine for the Roman Empire to become the Holy Roman Empire. So things have moved a lot faster because of communication and transportation that have come on the scene of history right about the time of the middle of the 1800s. And this is part of the way these manifestations of prophets work. They throw out into the ether and a knowledge and an ability for humans to now think in ways that they have not thought about before, and to create inventions of things so that we could eventually become one planetary unified species. So if you look at most of the inventions that have come about in the last 180 years, you see that all of them begin right around the middle of the 1800s. And that's so that we could eventually have what Jesus told us all to pray for: thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. So we will have a divine civilization on earth. And within Baha'i, we are taught that that civilization, that cycle, we're at the end of a cycle, and this new cycle that will be coming will last the next 500,000 years into the future of human history. So that's a pretty long time. So we've gone through cycles in the past. We have been since the time of Adam, we have been in a masculine cycle. So all the major prophets have been male. But prior to this Adamic cycle, as we call it, there was a civilization which is not well known by most people, but scholars know a lot about that. And that civilization was known as Atlantis. And that Atlantean civilization lasted 50,000 years. And it was a feminine cycle. All the major prophets during that 50,000 year cycle were females. So the human race as a species goes through cycles in its evolutionary growth. It has 50,000 years of a feminine cycle. Then with the coming of Adam, you have a 6,000 year cycle for the masculine awareness. And now with the coming of the Baha'i cycle, both the male and the female energies are merged. And from now on, the true prophets or manifestations can either be male or female. And we do know that the next major manifestation of prophet will come around the year 3000, and we do believe it will be a female. So Baha'i requires a lot of education. That's one of the things within the Baha'i laws and commandments, is that education is mandatory. And that's because the more educated the human species, the better we're all going to be collectively. We use an example. I know you gals will love this one. And it is if a family has two children, one girl, one boy, but they only have enough money to send one to college, the female is the one that goes. And that's because the female is the first teacher of the species. It's the mother. And so the more educated the mother is, the more educated the entire human species becomes. That's a pretty good law. I like that law. Yeah. So we study different aspects of human history. Like I said, I'm versed in ancient civilizations, approximately 4,122 BC. We teach how all the ancient structures were built, who built them, why they were built, and how all of these structures are interconnected over the course of time. So we explain all of this, and it's a pretty interesting history. And we use books and materials from all sources, not specific to Baha'i necessarily. I've studied with Graham Hancock and Robert Bavall, John Anthony West, Robert Schock, and these are individuals are on the cutting edge of learning and teaching about ancient civilization. And they have a lot of books out that they describe, and they talk about these ancient civilizations. We know, for example, that the Sphinx on the Giza Plateau goes back to 10,000 BC. uh, or basically 12,500 BC. And we know that that Sphinx was placed there by the last major prophet of the Atlantean period, and that person was known as Maya, even know her name. And that became a marker stone for the first major prophet of this cycle, which is Adam. He had to find that spot. And we know from the Egyptian chronologies and Egyptian writings that the Egyptians did not build the pyramid in its concept and idea. They were involved in its construction, but not really understanding it. And the way you can really grasp this is that there's no hieroglyphics at all inside the pyramid, especially the Great Pyramid at Giza. And you would generally have a lot of Egyptian motifs on walls and stuff, but not with the Great Pyramid, because it was built by the followers of Adam and was placed there with the inside structures laying out a timeline of the evolution of the human species for the entire 6,000 years. Today, in the last, say, 150 years, we have researchers have gone and studied just the Great Pyramid at Giza. And these are known as pyramidologists. And they describe all of the chambers in the structure and the meanings behind all those chambers and passageways, which are unlike any other pyramid in the world. So it's a unique structure. Now, in 1950, they were digging away the sand that had built up along the base of the pyramid on the Giza Plateau. And lo and behold, they discovered these 100-ton blocks. And they took a drill and they bored down through one of the blocks. They had a little smell or scent kind of a device on the tip along with a little camera. And they wanted to see if they could get the air from what was in there from whenever it was put there. And they, lo and behold, they discovered a completely disassembled ship, one of a fleet of 27 boat pits, which have now been discovered since 1950 on the Giza Plateau. They've rebuilt one of those ships. It's got no nails in its construction. It's like a puzzle piece where you put A to B. And it's now today sitting in a specially housed chamber next to the pyramid. And it's the oldest ship on Earth. And it's a 146-foot ocean-going vessel. And the water content in the wood is only 2% less of what the wood would have had 5,000 years ago. So it's pretty interesting. So some of the things that we talk about within Baha'i. So we'll do Baha'i classes and fireside classes on all kinds of topics and all kinds of subjects, be it Hindu or Buddhist, Native American, Mayan, Hopi, Inca. We study all of these teachings. We don't leave anything out. So we cover the full basis of everything.
Michael,
So-
I wonder if you would talk about the 12 principles. I think I can bring it up on a screen share.
Sure. And one of the very first principles is independent investigation of the truth. And this is important in the sense that without a clergy, each person has to do their own homework. They have to do their own study. And that's the number 2 item right there. You can see it. Religion, of course, is progressive, all having a common foundation, and that means that it had a common plan. Science and religion are actually one. In fact, Baha'is cannot believe anything spiritually without being able to prove it scientifically. So that's an interesting one. You have the quality of men and women. Now consider that number 6 item. Consider that it was revealed in 1844 in Persia, which is modern day Iran, and how revolutionary that was at the time. elimination of prejudice of all kinds, universal compulsory education, of course, a spiritual solution to the economic problems on the planet. We go into that. And we also have the idea of developing a universal auxiliary language. There's a term which most of you might have heard. It's called unity in diversity. That's a Baha'i term. That's where it came from. And within Baha'i studies, you want to keep your histories and your languages completely diverse. You want to keep all those languages. But you also want to create a auxiliary language so that everybody can communicate effectively. For example, in the Eskimo language, you have 500 words for snow. Well, you certainly don't have that in English, but you do in Eskimo. So you want to keep that kind of knowledge intact in the world. It makes the ability to communicate much better if you have then a extra universal language. And that would be eventually taught in the schools. And then you would have a spiritual world government. Now consider that many of you may have heard this topic called the New World Order. Well, that was actually a term that the Baha'i founder gave way back in 1863. And that referred to a spiritual world civilization where all the problems would be solved spiritually and economically and socially and with every other problem that might occur on the planet. Now, finally, there is a divine planetary leader. I list it that way. It's sort of like for anybody who's ever watched Star Trek, in the original series, you have every episode they go to another planet. They talk to the main leader on the planet. So we have an individual who is a direct bloodline descendant of King David, going back 3,000 years. We have the entire genealogy of that, person to person to person, every king that sat on the throne. That comes by way of a covenant or promise that God makes in the Old Testament. In the book of Jeremiah, where God said that David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne. And this is where Jesus gets the concept of praying for a kingdom, for the king. So you have a planetary leader along with a constitutional monarchy, you might say, where people from around the world are elected to a grand spiritual body. And every person, including the king, only has one vote. That's it. And the purpose of the king is basically to explain spiritual passages in many of the spiritual writings, and just to guide the human race towards understanding things. So we call that king today a guardian, as they guard the spiritual knowledge for the human race. And in fact, back at the time of the Egyptians, when people were coming up the Nile and they would come to the Giza Plateau, they would see a side version of the Sphinx, and it's sitting there, and it was actually guarding the pyramids on the Giza Plateau. So they actually had a second term that they used for it. They actually called the Sphinx the guardian. And it's pretty interesting today that in people doing research for where the Ark of the Covenant is that the Jews had, it is believed today to be in Ethiopia, in a small church in Ethiopia. And there's a gentleman there that gets elected to stay inside this church grounds for life. And they call him the guardian as well. So this terminology has gone around and been around for a long, long time in terms of prophecy and understanding. So one of the charts that I gave Deva as well will show you what we know today as the actual tree of life. And that will be a genealogical tree where all the major manifestations or prophets are all genealogically linked. They're all part of one family group. And that makes the unification of the entire human race much more interesting once we understand those things. So, any questions so far?
Did with leaders, I'm not sure I followed the chronology of the leaders, but did that resolve, or how do they resolve warring among people? They got any good solution to that?
Yeah, basically, we fight over territory, we fight over resources, and we have, in the past 6,000 years, fought over religious concepts and differences. And when everybody independently investigates the truth for themselves, then we don't have a clergy anymore, and world problems will be resolved by all the different people coming together and educating themselves in all the different spiritual messages without the concept today of my way is right and everybody else is wrong. Where in Baha'i, we actually say, we're the ones that are right, but all the rest of you guys are right as well.
Right.
And that's a big difference in the way things are understood.
Right.
It'll take about 1,000 years for the full effect of the kingdom on earth to come into play. So we're in about 3 years from now when things will begin to set the stage for the coming of this kingdom. And the foundation of it is already in, you might say, it's in gestation in the womb of the human species. And it has been for 180 years. So all of these differences will be resolved. This is the idea of having a world court that eventually, with a planetary species where we can unify and all our resources would be used for the totality of the human species instead of just one particular group or one country, then things will change dramatically. In fact, we will eventually begin to move off world. And even within the Baha'i writings, we have been told that eventually the human race will merge with another race in the universe and become one race. So we're not only diversifying ourselves and becoming unified as a species on our own planet, we're going to become unified in the universe as well.
Yeah.
So good history stuff.
Yeah.
Michael, I'm able to bring up on screen share the document you talked about. It's so complex, we won't be able to go into it, but I'll at least show it. And then we'll hear from Teresa.
Right.
Thank you.
So here you go. Obviously, very, very complex. And this here is the genealogy, right?
Yes, Abraham has 3 wives, Sarah, Keturah, Hagar. And what's interesting is, follow the genealogy of these 3 women, you get almost all of the major prophets that have come from those 3 women. And that's what makes it really interesting.
So I'm hoping that by sharing this, it'll stimulate curiosity for folks and they'll continue to explore it. And so I want to thank you very much, Michael, for what you've shared thus far. And we will hear from Teresa. And when we finish our service, we will have time for more questions and comments. Thank you. Teresa.
was called The Ballad of St. Francis. Let's see. Would sadness go away if I dispelled my greed and gave it all to someone else in need? Would hatred disappear if I planted the seed and gave my love to those who made me bleed? But I'm so tired of this pain, 'cause no one understands my need for change. If I walked the pilgrim's path, could I become a saint and give myself completely to restraint? Could I see all my faults as a chance for love? Would it make me wise, make me humble enough? But I'm so tired of this pain, 'cause no one understands my need for change. If I loved the world enough, could I see the face of God? Could I see the face of God? Could I see the face of God?
Thank you, Teresa. So very, very precious. It's at this time that we go into our donation of love and light by taking a breath together and becoming increasingly aware of the love and the light that we are, becoming aware of it within ourselves, and gently allowing it to expand beyond our body, beyond what we identify with this person. This love, this light may be shared with whoever can benefit. We just let it go. We just let it be. We can do this at any time simply by making a choice. For that ability, that privilege, we say thank you. And so it is, and we will finish with Teresa.
I am a happy girl. I am a happy girl. Though sometimes I get sad, I am a happy girl. I have a peaceful soul. have a peaceful soul. Though sometimes I feel bad, I have a peaceful soul. And I love this world, even when it hurts. I am a happy girl. I am a happy girl. I have a peaceful soul. I have a peaceful soul. And though sometimes I get mad, I have a peaceful soul. I have a quiet mind. I have a quiet mind. Though sometimes I react, I have a quiet mind. And I love this world, even when it hurts. I am a happy girl. I am a happy girl. And I love this world, even when it hurts. I am a happy